Hello everyone, it's generally I space-time creator, communication lines, settings, high track lines, high center interference, and position locations on levels. Coming to so many line screens, direct lines, pixelation, screen lines, high adaptation surface, so triangulate to position program locations. So we all have to understand how to identify ourselves through pixelation of screen lines. You guys have to understand the conditions of override, overdrive, and the line condition to its position. Framing line screens, for example, in line condition, is like this in equation. I'm just showing the line condition, high position operation surface. So position location of track lines. So let's get in settings into this set locations. Let's start with that conditions, right? All right, so this is the set location of the person. Okay, that's the person, right? So when you get in that communication line settings, high position locations, you're going like this. Right? You're wiping screen lines, and this comes into A, this comes in A, this comes in A. There's three track line conditions, right? So lines in position of arm, in position of A, in position of A, in position of A, and in positions of A. Okay, that's just A, right? So you have to break it down. You need to break down the columns, right? These are central line communication of columns in graphing set lines and screen lines, and pixelation screen set location at high setting. So when you break these things down, you come into this set locations, 45-degree angles, set line condition high centers, and travel calculation position of programs. Okay, you come into graphing screens. Now, once you come into graphing screen lines, you come into point tracks. This work comes into pixelation screen lines. Okay, each one has a pattern position location high setting and travel position. It's known exactly where they are, and track line conditions of jump scarring and track to its communication. All right. So once you understand that, you come into the oscillogics, the correlation panels, graph and communication setting. You have a graph line, your Schumann resonance, and travel calculations. Okay? Directing lines of communication of panels, directing lines, high center interference, and circulation, high calculation setting, position, illumination, graph calculation to a system. Okay? So this is you in your hologram. This is you through your A setting lines. This is your atmosphere line screens right here. This is your atmosphere line, right? This is track lines of where you are in set location. Okay. Now, in direct lines of communication of panels, we have space line division line screens, set location high centers. This puts you in position location at top rotation line settings. This is what happens when you guys go into top rotation. Direct lines communication of panels, 3-line position, 4 lines of track, 1 lines in provision, instead of calculations, directing high calculations, right? Pixel activation screen lines, adaptation surface, triangulation reposition of the programs, sets lines, communication of point centers, jump scar calculation setting, and graphical calculation line position location to your system and travel calculations. Okay? Complicated stuff, right? All right, so let's break this down and how this works in all settings and travel. Okay? Position locations, all calculations. Let's go through box frame, right? Pixelation, right? Let's just go through 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go through 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's a space. This is your space in between. Okay, setting position of track line high centers is position location block centers of travel. Okay, travel positioning calculation lines of 3, 4, and 5 provisions in cycle. Okay. Sets communication graph calculation lines of point centers and travel communication 2 lines of zeros. Direct lines of 3 lines of patterns and track location. So everywhere you have a space in between, it's you in set location to its anomaly that sets lines at high calculation stream interference in pixelation stream locations into orbits. So every time there's a space, there's a center communication setting in travel recognition time sequence. How it travels in set position, right? This is a TV. Right? This is what a TV does when you're watching TV. Drone projectors, lines of graph calculation line streams. Line signals, high position modification stream lines, high calculation. Now, directing lines of communication lines is a triangulation line screen in set locations, right? 3 molecules of design. Modificates lines of graphs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in line settings, okay? So that's 8 lines into 1 monitor. Half graph line screen into box line, T receptor position, travel calculation, pixelation screen line, and compute system and travel. Complicated stuff, right? But this is all through a TV. See, the thing is, you have to break these things down. When you break the molecule streamlines and high calculation to 3-line calculation setting, The actual geographical map creates the anomalies and track lines to its pixelation screen calculation high interference and pixelation stream calculation high settings into U and modification streamlines and high calculation and position locations to its operation system and your set location line settings to your pixel frame communication setting to space anomalies and track location. There you are in track location. That's how you create it through a TV screen. Hooah! You understand that now? You understand? How you modify your line screens and high standard interference pixelation screen lines, detecting lines of communication at A, in position at A, in position at A. Ground powers in the atmosphere line screen. Directing lines position of patterns, high calculation, high standard interference. 1/8 graph, monitoring communication lines, atmosphere line position location, teleportation, stream interference, balance communication, compute system. That's you in track line inside your TV. So in that calculation line, to split the anomalies, track lines, high standard interference, 0 gravity, position of 1, 2 lines of 3, 3 lines of 4, and 4 lines of 5 track locations. So every time you're watching TV, you're seeing pixelation screen settings and adaptation of space and time. Very complicated stuff. Okay? You're not going to understand it. It's too high-rise. But you understand this through teleportation. Okay, what happens even with you when you go through recharge? Remember, guys, space line connecting high interference and all travel communication line system, the actual space line connection inside you is the cerebrum. It's the space in between. Okay? So let's go through this again, shall we? Point lines of track, this is you. Okay, I was trying to figure out why is it so important to understand who I am in circulation and setting. Very high lines and high levels of technology. Very high rise, high calculation lines of future technology. Okay? So understanding this line communication, this is you. All right? Getting out of the equation, come into this line calculation lines of 3 track locations. Direct lines modification setting comes into a block location center. Okay? Track calculation lines, high position of 2, in position of 3, in position of 4, in position of 5, in position of 6, in position of 7. Okay? 7 track lines, high standard interference, and graph calculations. Modification lines, crossing line stream, 45-degree angles, cross line calculation, high position locations, and setting. Modulation screen lines and pixelation screen lines, high calculation. Okay? So, we all have to understand all through files. There's your files. Okay? And so you break down each box line, each rotation surface has a position of programs, direct lines of modification setting, and travel calculations, point lines of tracks, and 3-line connections, right? So it's complicated, right? Try to understand you through pixelation. That's how you all created through line settings of A. Okay? In a TV box screen. All right. All right, so now you understand the geometric line screen, how it hides its position location line system. Altitude stream lines, higher self calculations with avatar, in position location near sim. Pattern communication lines in traction. Okay? Center calculation lines are 2 track line connections. Atmosphere lines, add in position location near settings and tractions. Systematical of sim and modification screens. It's all levels of a TV screen set location inside connections. That's all this is. So understand that. Then you understand the locking sequence, panel communication lines, a class of calculation stream. Direct lines of communication line centers, panels communication lines, graphing calculations, 1, 2, 3, 4, and set locations. There's the space in between. So every time you're working with space lines, you have point line track lines, jump scars in position to its setting, right? They jump scar to each line's a space anomaly and track line conditions. Point lines of track. And again, this is inside your TV. So now you understand what is in correlations when you come into your set lines of recharge. Higher self line, track lines into your earth. This is your earth, right? Metaphorically. Sets lines into your Schumann residence and graph calculation streamlines in your detect system of your behavioral set locations. All right? Now, direct lines of communication lines, a center line, position of program location setting is the receptor of division lines at 3 track locations. And again, this is inside your TV. Everything is inside your TV. You're never out of your TV. All right? Understand line conditions, all platitude line screens, and navigation line calculation setting to your sim. Right? 3C pods and track location teleportation streams. See, you have no idea what your TV is actually. Okay? So I'm showing you exactly how powerful it is, how you guys are in the conception of files inside your TV. So getting that position line connections really gets into that formation screen, right? Adaptation location line centers, block line centers, A, A, in set locations, right? So in that set lines, it's a 3-track line provision. Center track lines are 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So that's 4 million, okay, equals lines of box in triangulation. So that's male into female cycle and travel, okay? Draw position of point lines of track. 5 provisions, 4 cycles, 4 clocking settings. 3 track line settings, that's 4 equals lines of 3, 3 equals lines of 7, 7 position of 24, line connection highest interference, into pixelation in compute system and travel calculation line system, and power over line connections of position of point centers of track location. Okay, complicated stuff, right? But again, this is inside your TV. So if you understand your cerebro, then you understand the provision. How comes at all levels of modifications is travel calculation of seat pods and set location travel settings. So when you guys are recharging, your TVs are doing this. All right, so setting you guys in modulation screens and set location of clouds is your membranes. The direct line calculation setting has a calculation line setting that opens all position of patterns in clouds, sets specification of system line connections, and here is line connections to your moon, all right? So again, it's inside your TV. Everything is in a TV box, right? E equals MC squared. That's the square. Square turns into a diamond. Diamond turns into a Merkaba, okay? So get into that line calculation setting. Now you have to get into more formation locations of a pixelation screen. Directing lines of communication line centers in track locations, U, and the lines of 3 track locations, all right? Modulations B, A, position locations of C in traction, right? Setting lines of 3 perimeters, sets lines of 2 to above, right? And again, remember, it's always inside a TV. You're always working inside a TV. You don't come out of your TV. You wake inside your TV. Pixelation screens, box line centers, graph calculation stream interference, and probe location setting and compute system levels of travel. Directing lines, communication lines of O in position of A in track locations. Directing lines of O into C in track locations. Directing lines of O in platforms of communication to centered calculations. Direct lines into an energetic dome, security line position of panels, and 3 communication surface and triangulation. Again, you're inside your TV. So everything is created inside line conditions, which is what in all modification circles and high calculations. Your cerebro, right? There's a spectrum communication inside settings, and again, inside your TV, okay? It's a spectrum dome and line setting and travel calculation to its program setting, okay? So you have to understand how to use the 45-degree angles of travel first to understand pixelation screen lines and high calculation. Directing lines calculation line is your cloud. Your cloud comes in position of travel lines. Constellation path, line calculation setting, and position location to your membranes. So the membranes are inside position to its cerebral or cortex line of its design line connections to its system and travel. And again, it's inside your TV, right? So all those cloud line settings are inside you. Communication line screen sets direct signals. Now this is very complicated stuff because everything is inside your TV, okay? Now you understand when you're a child and understand what's going on with your program location setting, coming back into pixelation form lines and how you have to really understand how to use your blocks and triangulation line calculation setting in position of A, in position of B, in position of C or D inside locations, right? Dimension line screens, compute systems, atmosphere lines of change, and balanced position of travel. Setting communication lines of triangulation of 3-point line centers of clocking and 3 centers of high position, right? Equal lines of communication separate high calculation line centers in position of box frames. Setting communication send, and again, inside your TV, okay? So you have to understand when your TV comes at you on track line communication, it comes through your letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. It gives you a modification screen lines, right? So you all live inside the TV. Now, once you understand how to use the pixelation screen lines, the 2 operations surface comes into three triangulation settings line position of 4 tracks, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 set location of acceleration. Now, directing lines, crossing lines, setting line position location is all levels of line signal. Setting calculation line interference and graph calculation of 2 patterns, crossing line sync location settings into 6 patterns, Sets position location your settings to your theta communication of direction. And again, inside your TV. Modulation lines, constant calculation line interference into all position location of beta, theta, beta, all of the high calculation. Directing lines of panels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 communications, right? Turns on the lights, turns on provision, sun comes in, modification line centers in travel, calculation, high position, all lines at high interference in track location of face recognition inside your TV. Ooh-ah. You understand that now? Do you understand what is really going on? Putting you guys back in your pixelation screen lines, your file adaptation surface back in this memory position location of face recognition. Okay? That's all it is. That's all this is. Now I'm going to put you guys in a 24 billion line screen. Okay? Setting position of track lines into lines. We're going to go into cerebral 1, 2, and 3 settings and travel. Okay? Direct modification lines, a triangulation line setting. Okay? All female streamlines will be triangulation box. Males will be box triangulation and triangulation highest centers in position of operation. Direct lines, communication lines, a position of 0, 0, and 3 track lines at high calculations. Direct cross line stream in position of 0, 0, and 4 track line connections have a position location of power. Gender line calculation again inside your TV. Everything is done inside the TV. Okay. So once you understand that, then you understand this set lines of communication works in line setting in track locations. A lines, B lines, C lines, and 0 in position of travel. Setting track lines to its communication is a pattern position location setting. Files of recognition, time sequence, time panels, and track location. And again, inside your TV. Okay, you understand? Everything is inside the TV. Nothing is outside the TV. Everything works inside the TV. All right, so when you are in recharge, this is what's happening with your set location of 3 seed pods and set location of travel. Okay? So the 3 atmosphere lines have changed the pixelation screen lines, adaptation of teleportation, graphing, calculation line screens, and high center in its operation service. There are cerebral cortex lines as signals of face recognition of time setting, puts position to its operation surface in all levels of box locations. Okay? Complicated stuff, isn't it? You say, whoa, this is strange. I don't understand any of this. Well, you have to understand that you're just pixelation of screens. That's all you are. Now, once you understand that, you break it down, right? You break down the blocks, you break down the circulations, you break down the cerebros. Sets lines communication of what? Doc. Documents calculation, operation, and compute system travel. Sets correlation high interference of box frames, triangulation frames, and position of 0 frame set locations, compute system, travel calculations. Point lines of track, panels, position walls, graph calculation line centers into boxing frames of triangulation. Direct lines of panels in all levels of operation surface in position line calculation setting into theta communication streamlines and high calculation line interference and flux capacity communication setting inside your TV. Okay? So it's very complicated, right? Now you get a bit of understanding what's going on with your system inside calculations, how everything works again inside your TV. So once you understand that, then you understand the interline communication setting. Setting track line size interference. Here's a position location of TV, right? This is you. Okay, this is you watching TV. Okay. So pixelation screens, each box line has a representation of your files and track lines. Let's go through 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll go through 5 provisions. Okay. So each block line goes in position to your cerebral and 3 lines, 4 lines, and 5 lines as location. Directing lines of communication lines, sets lines as sonar. Sonar comes in position of beta and alpha channel communication streamlines and high calculation. Directing modification lines, square roots, square triangulation high position programs, sets lines of calculation lines at high center. Setting track lines high position location of 1, 2, and 3 track locations into 4 communication streamlines and adaptation surface and triangulation. Point lines of track and high center puts position of pi in line connection to your cerebral and cortex line division in track location setting in line connections to your recharge in position location of programs and pixelation screens of face recognition. Okay, complicated stuff, isn't it? Now you understand what happens when you're in a child. Program setting, resetting, psychological connections, set locations, psychological next highest center interference in position programs, directing lines of position location to all lines of calculations, point lines of tracks, blocking centers of 3-track line connections, all right? Plat division lines, sets lines of A in position of B in position of C. C constitutes the system, B balances settings and position locations to its awareness. And again, inside your TV. Okay, so the more you understand the graphing set lines and high interference as your set location to the inner child releases position programs, you come into all modifications of pixelation. So in settings and traction. Okay. All right. Complicated, right? It's confusing through all line centers and when it comes into face recognition. Okay. All right. So putting pixelation screen lines back together is understanding files and files and files and files and files and files and files. That's set location, right? Bounce screen lines and 4-track location, right? Direct communication lines are the cerebral. Cerebral lines are set lines and 3-track line connections, okay? Direct lines of panels, direct lines of surface, and platforms, and 3 tracks, 4 tracks, 5, 6, 7 in provision. Okay, center calculation line interference sets position of 4 and track lines of 3, center lines of system locations. So platitudes, block line centers, and 3-track line settings. So let's say you get 1,000 line platforms, equals lines high position of 24 billion cycles, sets communication encompasses line center to 0 gravity in line condition settings and programs. Okay. So that constitutes system location height travels and platitude division line centers and center communication setting of block line centers of pixelation screen lines in position of adaptation surface and high triangulation high position programs of consciousness. Okay, and again, inside your TV. Nothing is left to chance. Now, once you understand the 4 settings of 3-track line connections, it comes into a colossal calculation lines of a black hole and center communication setting in all lines in position of your cerebral cortex of design and set locations. Right? Look, the dome. You see it? Boom. All right. Complicated stuff, right? All right. So this is extremely powerful, overwhelming for everybody now. Okay. So when you get into the transition lines and you realize you're nothing but pixelation screen lines, adaptation line connects high center interference, your position of your programs sets calculation line centers. So let's say you go into 2 block centers in position of 3 settings, triangulation of 1 set in position locations into 3 line settings, sets position of 4 tracks in 3 line communication, setting lines of 0 calculation setting to 1 graph calculation stream locations. In this lines in the T receptor in position of travel lines in position of travel. So in track lines, 3 platforms in track locations, right? Direct lines into 2 travels lines of 2 atom lines into 1 molecule design line they travel. Direct lines of communication lines of 3 lines of 0, 0 lines of 4, jump scar set locations. Breaking these down in patterns in center calculation setting and graphical calculation streamlines in adaptations, crossing line communication line settings in a 45-degree angle and line position locations to its astral travels and set position. Okay, all inside your TV. So the correlation line center and high position travel communication lines of 1 graph, center lines of 0, 3 lines 0, 4 lines 0, box position of 4 clocking centers of travel and direct signal. Modificates the system locations into 3 lines of provision, 4 lines of track, 6 line division, and 7 in calculation. Direct lines communication line center has a box line screen, sets position of programs, sets calculation height and levels of point centers. This is where it comes into blue tracks. Let's colorate the line screen line interference, what your pixelation screen is to your TV, guys. Then you understand the modulations in set location. There's 2 blue wave-wise centers lines connections, right? Let's go into the red track line conditions. Graphing calculations of 1 in position locations, overline signals, high position of space in between the line connections. Directing lines modifications. Let's go into more coloration screen. Directing lines communication of panels. Let's go into the green center lines in set position. Coloring in the line screen, high center interference and travel communication. And remember, it's inside your TV. More coloration screen lines, adaptation surface. Let's go into pink. Setting travel calculation lines at point centers. Now this is an override because the coloration pattern is coming to initiate to run the program to set location overdrive. Driving communication line centers sets position of travel calculation line center. Let's go into the origin lines, blocking centers in position of program location setting, and again into overdrive and set location. Setting direct line setting on high positions operation server location system come into blue lines. Setting traffic communication setting and again into overdrive, but this time is an overriding cycle calculation to a default channel of communication. Directing lines of communication line screens, setting line calculation high interference, setting position of programs into gray line centers. Sets lines of black line sequence into 3 lines of patterns, correlate communication and covering line screens and high center interference on block channels of position location of blue centers. Directing calculation high position levels of its operation system. This is what goes on inside your TV, okay, through communications. Now, getting that position of travel lines comes in a goal line cycle. We change the line communication lines and crossing line symbols. Direct calculation lines in position of orange tracks, in line setting of phase direction of plane sequence, in position of panels. Now, that's one track line calculation setting in your position location, your dome centers of cerebral cortex lines of design. 1,000 line in line rotation, 24 billion cycles lines of correlating high interference compute sets locations and travel calculation lines of zero gravity in line conditions of cerebral. Directing lines of communication high position of formation has a phase direction of time sequence. Puts position of pattern lines. Now the pattern lines comes in track lines to high center interference in position of program locations, inline calculated high interference in blocking line centers to high position travel lines in a 3-pod location system of travel. Now, in that position of travel communication setting, you have to understand how to use your block channels. Jump SCAR communication, let's go black centers, box position location of travel. Okay. Now let's go through each graph. 1, position 2. Let's go through 3. Let's go 4. Let's go 5. Let's go 6. Okay. So A. Okay. Film projectors of 1, crossing line streams, center line rotation. Directing line calculation lines. We go into B, we go into C, we go into O, and we go into D and set locations, right? Balance screen center lines operation surface. And again, inside your TV. Communicate line settings, operation server locations in its direction of its division, delta heading, inside the TV. Correlates the pi track line setting in position of 2 panels and set lines in high center interference and track to its communication of face recognition inside your TV. Okay, so the pixelation has accountability line screen, and that direct line calculation setting, let's say it's in pink, setting travel lines of pink, space in between screen settings, adaptation surface, and triangulation of 2 point centers. Directing lines, communication line centers, in travel calculation lines into orange, sequence, and position of piece programs. What do you think your TV does, guys? This is exactly what it does. See, this is going beyond, isn't it? There's a 2-track line provision cycles in infinity line change position location of block centers and track locations. So when you guys get an image, what's happening when you're plugged in and you see a big graphical screen, right? Your calculation brain interference is trying to recognize the patterns, trying to recognize the voice grid. It's trying to recognize the image through structure locations. So what this is in position of the brain interface is creating a face recognition of what it sees through perception. And that's how it comes into modulation line centers into your box frame of your TV, into your set location of your cerebro. Okay. All right. Very complicated stuff. But at least you understand why you have a 12 graph screen lines in high position of travel calculation lines. Point tracks of 1. Okay. 8 position 8 centers, 8 position of center of balance, and 8 position of grounds. Direct lines modification line screen sets lines of communication setting and pixelation screen lines at center into your Fibonacci screen lines and adaptation. Now, directing lines of communication, again, inside your TV. Remember that. This is set location. This is your antenna. That's the 2 panels communication to your spine. Okay? Setting direct line signals, high center interference. Sets position location calculation. Travel calculations. Right? Sets lines in your flux capacitor. Console calculation streamlines. And high position location all lines. In fluctuation screen lines, adaptation surface, and triangulation lines of acceleration and set location inside your TV. Sets lines of energetic dome screens inside your TV. Sets position locations to your location grid inside your TV. Okay? So I keep saying TV so you get that in the brain. Everything is face recognition inside your TV. Okay, now you get a better understanding. Whoa, what's going on inside my TV? That's me. So me going through all communication to its communication of its program, of its communication line centers, to its computer system, through its axial communication streamlines, indirect line calculation setting, in position to its location and pixelation. You're living in a TV receptor line conditioned computer framing of a simulation. Nothing else. Now, this is what you do on a sequence communication setting and travel calculation line settings, all through formation lines and graphing calculation of colors inside your TV. Okay. All right. So this is way beyond understanding. So getting into that graph calculation lines, this is where it gets really interesting, into your set location of your TV, right? So once you get into that, you get into the graphs. Let's break it up. All right. There's a space intra-application, right? That's the space. That's outer space. Outer space, inner space. Inner space, inner space. Okay. Outer space is a provision line screen that doesn't have adaptation source of recognition time sequence. It has a pattern communication setting of its operation. Okay. Now, we all understand how to centerlines the one-line cycle. I'm getting you guys enough information to know exactly what's going on in setting in travel communication to your crop circles of design. Direct calculation line position location. So the actual space in between is the center position lines of your spectral communication lines of face recognition of space and time and traction in all lines in high calculation setting in pixelation. Okay. Inside your TV. All right. So I think we're getting a little bit understanding. I think we're on the same page here, how everything is inside you through adaptation, understanding that through set location. Right? Look at that, it traveled right away. And it moved position. That's inside you, right? But you're all connected to the block centers, triangulation, reset position programs, line calculation, setting your alphabetical string locations. Adaptation 1 sets position travel calculations. That's you, right? So let's say you're an A, you're an A, you're an A, you're an A, and you're an A. Okay? That's all of you into your block location centers of travel. Okay? So once you understand that, then you understand the graphing screen lines in set position. Okay? What's below is what's above. Okay? But it's the space in between that you have to recognize in set location of travel, which is nothing but a set location of teleportation screen lines in high adaptation of surface in track location. Hello. And again, it's inside your TV. Okay. I think we're getting a better understanding now how this modifies you in space, in between, right? Very, very complicated. Now, once you understand the pixelation screen lines, then you understand the adaptation surface, how you can calculate and modified when you come into sequence locations and setting. So when you're wiping out a screen of you, you're just nothing but A's and B's and C's and D's all the way to Z. That's how you coordinate, right? So understanding your pixelation stream, you understand your TV box screen lines, in adaptation of surface, and set location line centers in a 4-track location. Working with that setting in travel, okay? But you have to understand the center position is the space in between, okay? Is platforms of files of position, okay? That's all this is. Getting your files back in sequence of block centers, block centers, block centers, block centers. See, coming back in setting. Pixelation file 2. Okay, pixelation file 3. Remember, it's pixels on the screen. You guessed it, pixelation file 4. All through a TV. Okay, files and files and files and files of you through information. Okay. All right, I think we're getting the understanding now, right? Now it's getting a lot more easier to understand what is happening to you. Obviously, we're going to definitely need this Q&A because you have no understanding what's going on through track locations. how you're modulated through a pixelation screen, and how you see everything of a pixelation screen. But when you break it down, you're all calculated and modified through your 12 DNA track. That is just your position of panels when it comes into block screens and set location of files. File 1, File 2, File 3, File 4, File 5. Okay? Inside your TV. You have a platform, zero gravity line connections, right? You got a dome center and track location. Whoa. Then you get your location grid. Yes, of face recognition. One position of platform and communication. Right? Now, directing lines of communication lines of the cerebral cortex lines of face recognition have 3 lines of clocking. Direct lines calculation high interference into another face position of travel. Sets position into all calculation lines a high formation line screen and high position of travel calculation line system of sonar line position location of high lines calculations and higher communication dimensions of space and time through modulations of evolution of face in between. Okay? You understand now how this all works? How you go from this to this, the 2 lines of face recognition time sequence, and all levels of pattern communication, sending, position notes, operation service. When you're looking in a mirror, you see different files of you. Let's go through a mirror. You're here, right? Then you're here, and then you're here, and then you're here, and then you're here, right? So each one has a file. Has a file, has a file, has a file. It's at locations, right? So each has a face position of a file, and position of a file, and position of a file, and position of data, uplinks and downlinks. So that correlates high center interference in your travel calculations into your line connections of your mirror of face recognition. So understanding that through the cerebral, setting track lines to the magnetic highway information system of fields of set location. Direct lines of communication lines of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 revisions. Okay, setting track lines of high center interference into block line centers of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 set locations of DNA traction. Okay, position of modifications, how to travel. Okay, going to the center, calculating the lines of realms and travels in position to all line settings, and you guessed it, in set lines of face recognition as set location. Okay. You understand what's going on now? How this all modifies you inside location? So when you're looking in the mirror, you're seeing files of you of face recognition. Millions and millions and billions and trillions of you of files. Why do you think you have a mirror? Now you know. Face recognition. That's why you have mirrors. That's why you're given mirrors. That's why you're given phones. That's why you're given TV. That's why you're given computers. So we all are coming back to what? Face recognition. Okay? Through pixelations. All right. Things are getting a lot more easier. I think we're breaking this down now, how you guys come into your system through modulations, right? Understanding your pixel screens, understanding your adaptation line screen, high position operation service, all through a box screen. Okay, 4 panel. Oh, see that? Set lines of 3 tracks and 4 track location, right? Walls and connections of 2 panels, 2 line dividers and track line connections, triangulation of point centers and high centers. And again, inside your TV. Nothing is out of TV. So where are you in set location when you're recharging line connections? Inside your TV. You're inside your TV. Okay. So you have to understand how you use your block centers, pattern communications, high generation screen lines, adaptation service, triangulation high position programs, graphing correlation setting into your alphabetical systems with applications. Okay. When you break this down, you break down each pixelation of file that's inside of you. Okay. So this is what we don't focus on, right? You don't see a computer up close. You don't see a TV up close. You don't see your phones up close, but that's what it is. It's extremely alive. And when it's alive, it breaks down its A's in set locations and travel, right? So you're bringing things in travel calculation inside, right? This comes into all setting. Whoa, look at that. We got a tunnel communication coming in, right? And then we get the ground line. Whoa, look at this. Crop circle coming in and set up position locations. All right. So breaking down the ice, breaking down the provisions, breaking down the cycles, breaking down the barriers in track location and what you see through its image of track location. Okay, through a TV screen. Once you get into digitalized communication streamlines and high calculated high interference, everything breaks down the surface location, setting pixelation screens at graphs. Graphs comes into line calculations, and that's how journals do this. And then you actually see the picture of its design, right? You're only allowed to see what you only see is what you can't see in interactions. Because once you understand that, you can change the position of its brain into higher levels of future adaptation. Hooah. All right. How's everybody feel about that? A little bit confused, less confused, more confused, not sure what's going on, right? Inside you, of your space and your time. All right, so that's it. We're going to stop there because it's spinning very, very fast in set location and travel settings and travel communications. All right. But I've just shown you how you come into your settings, into set line communication settings and online communication, how to break these things down through its digital, its X-ray, its imaging, its applications. All right. See you guys in 5. Adios.